Senior Waste Planning Specialist at Auckland Council. My role is to give life to the actions that are in Auckland Council's Waste Management and Minimisation Plan that relate to construction and demolition. Every council in the country is required to have undertake a waste assessment, which is kind of a detailed research, discovery, investigation of all the waste that is present in its region, and to understand the flows of that waste, where it goes and so on. And we normally follow that, most councils will follow that with another piece of work called a Waste Management and Minimisation Plan. And in Auckland Council's case, we have 8 actions that relate directly to construction and demolition waste. One of those identifies issues with problematic materials and identifies polystyrene as a problematic material in the region. And I just want to kind of cover a little bit about council's sort of perspective on this, and councils and the work that council has been doing to try and tackle that issue, and also some of the difficulties that we're encountering. A little bit of context. It was a well-known figure that C&D waste is about 35-40% of all waste in the region. But just to give you a little bit of a picture of what that is really like, Auckland Council empties 280,000 bins a day, rubbish bins a day. All that waste from those 280,000 curbside bins still only comes to just over 20% of Auckland's waste. So the construction and demolition industry has a lot of work on its hands to try and tackle some of that issue. And polystyrene, so this is a bit of our take on what is it doing out there. This is a scene that you'll all be kind of familiar with, a building site with some formwork and a load of polystyrene dumped in the middle or placed in the middle, and some reinforcing, and it's all ready for a concrete pump to come along and do its thing. It's far from unusual to see a pile of polystyrene all stacked up there. Some of it's in a bag, which is lucky. Most of it's just kind of sitting there waiting to be blown around in the wind. And then again, another kind of typical scene of a building site. The concrete pump's probably only been in there 48 hours before, and dumped a load of concrete in, and then you have got a few lovely bags of scrap polystyrene that will have an unknown destination at some point. What I'll just chuck in, look at this. This is in the context, polystyrene is in the context of all C&D waste, and we're not just kind of zeroing in on polystyrene and looking at other things, but what you'll see also here is concrete pump out. So it's the concrete that's left in the pipes once the floor slab's been poured. The concrete pump guy doesn't want to take that away with him because he'll just finish up with a concrete pump pipe. So that gets pumped out. That can often be left kind of anywhere, parks, reserves, berms, gutters, neighbours sections, anywhere that you can think. So polystyrene sits in amongst a whole kind of context of construction and demolition waste issues. As Terry Ann alluded to, we're seeing polystyrene used in ever more interesting and innovative and novel ways, this is like a couple of examples that we've seen recently. The one on the right is this. It's a sandwich board of polystyrene and cross-laminated timber. Both of those issues on their own have problems. But when you glue them together, it just kind of makes it a whole lot more of an interesting product to deal with at the end of its life, i.e. it's got to go to a landfill. The second one on the left is a product that is, you know how some houses they like to have like stone effect walls, but it's kind of quite expensive to make those kind of stone walls. So if you have a stone kind of front, and then you stick it onto concrete that's been mixed with polystyrene, you have a kind of lightweight, easy to apply stone wall effect finish for probably a fraction of the price of a proper kind of stone wall. So again, and it's what Terry Ann was talking about, one product stuck to another. Once you've got one thing stuck to another, then you've got an end of life headache to deal with. So obviously we kind of get the the issues of building sites. The discipline on building sites is often poor. It's a very fragmented industry. I don't need to tell you this. It's a very fragmented industry. I would describe a lot of the building industry as kind of cottage industry. Nobody takes responsibility in many cases. There's no one on site, and there's no one's running a site. No one's in charge. It's just a flow of subcontractors coming on site. What's happening with the polystyrene is like not anybody's problem. And then it obviously fragments and gets out into the environment to have lots of fun. And then, the wind comes along and we start getting calls from neighbours who are going, hey, I bought $1 million house and now I'm living in a polystyrene war zone. And so that becomes a problem for council's illegal dumping team to go out. We spend about $1.5 million a year picking up illegal dumping, this included. And so that's another thing for council to think about and pay for. Right, so the other thing is end of life. And this is kind of just not really being thought of. Now, this example is from the ice factory that was on Onehunga Wharf until I think around about 18 months ago, and we got a phone call, an anonymous phone call from Andrew.
Excuse me, it wasn't. Thank you.
And he said, hey, you should go down to Onehunga Wharf, it's really nice down there on a sunny day. And there they were pulling down the ice factory, polystyrene basically going anywhere and everywhere. And behind that digger, where the grass is the Manukau Harbour, which seemed to willingly receive a whole lot of the polystyrene from that demolition. The contractors kind of, our job is just to pull the building down. It's not to worry about where the polystyrene goes. So they were quickly taken off site. They got a 14-day warning from the council to clean their up and get outside with brooms and vacuum cleaners and tidy the place up, which they did. Okay, so once it's out into the Manukau Harbour and other water systems, it starts to accumulate. This is some really interesting data that comes from the Litter Intelligence website. If you are really, if you're at a loss a bit later on to look up some interesting data, go to the Litter Intelligence website where you'll see that about 7.5% of all beach items are some kind of foam plastic. The types of foam plastic you're referring to. It's of nearly 10% of what you'll find in freshwater stream litter. So it's out there and having fun. So yeah, there are a few good things going on. Polystyrene in the right conditions, like Terry Ann said, is very, very recyclable, and the manufacturers want it back, and they provide these bags. But there is, it's not a system which is not quite well used as we would like it to be, and we're working on a partnership to try and crank that up a little bit more, because it is being used, and we've got to get it out of the environment as best we can and educate the industry. So there'll be should be an announcement coming through from council on that before too long. Hang on, we'll go back. Look, we've got a few other things going on. Jason down here and Joanne, our engineers, and some of Claude will be talking to in a minute. And we've got Jason and Joanne working on some specifications to have a proper engineered methodology for removing riprap floors at the end of their life. We're currently dealing with a stack of properties, I think you've been talking about this, stack of properties that were affected by the floods. And so council's trying to use itself to work out what the discipline around these things should be. And so we're working on that at the moment. Okay, and I'm not going to dwell on this. Okay. Right, so the problem of dealing with EPS once it gets out there, this is kind of where it lands with council. The issue of escaped EPS doesn't fit under the Litter Act. So under the Litter Act, you have to be able to prove that somebody like deposited something or dropped something or threw it out of a car. And so if EPS fragments blow off a building site, it's very hard to trace it back to a particular person. So it kind of doesn't generally come under the Litter Act. It's not typically regarded as a contaminant, and so it kind of it doesn't fall under resource consent conditions, because unlike sediment, which is regarded as a contaminant, it's not currently seen as a contaminant in itself. And so we've been doing some work, Terry Ann has been helping us with this, some work to try and make a case to our colleagues and consents to say, hey, you need to, it does leach chemicals and all of these other things that are undesirable, and so we need to reclassify it as a contaminant. We know that it changes the condition of soil and water once it's in there. And hey, this is a big thing. Once it's escaped, it's always out there. If you go around Flatbush, wander up and down the streets, have a really close look in the soil and in the grass, and you'll find polystyrene. That will be there forever until somebody comes along with a digger and digs up that whole site. This is it's a kind of a bit of a forever thing. No one's ever going to go and pick up those little bits and pieces that are out there. Okay, so what is a contaminant? It's something which is likely to change the physical, chemical or biological condition of land, air or water. It's just something that changes something, and this is the case that we're kind of trying to put to our colleagues and consents. It's harder than you think. And so the parallel that we draw is sediment, and so sediment is regarded as a contaminant, and so because it does change the environment, it changes soil, it gets into watercourses, it affects the wildlife in streams and in the ocean. We saw that actually recently with the storms that we had the other week. And so Council has a team of people that crack down on building sites that behave badly with sediment. And so this is a picture which came to us from the amazing Simon Wilkinson, who does a lot of really good work out in the field around building sites. It's a photo of a cormorant with a piece of polystyrene in its mouth that it's picked up somewhere along the way. And so we're arguing that is a change to the atmosphere, to the environment, because that cormorant shouldn't have a bit of polystyrene in its mouth. So that's kind of that's the crusade that we're on internally within Council at the moment. It's fun. Okay, so back to the work that Simon Wilkinson's been doing. We have 8 local board funded projects where we have Simon and his team and a bunch of other people, Calvin Aris, a whole load of really super cool people, hassling builders on all manner of things, including polystyrene. And so these are little examples where Simon and his team have gone out to badly behaving builders, Nigel, and told them to go and pick up their polystyrene. This particular gentleman decided to chuck that bale of polystyrene down into a gully, and Simon watched him go down there, and when he got to the top he said, go back down and bring that bag of polystyrene back up. So thankfully he was there on site. We are hoping for some changes to the Litter Act. There were some really, really good proposed legislation changes came through last year. They haven't yet made it to Parliament, but I would encourage you, if they do and you're able to submit, please encourage MFE to allow escaped material to be included in the Litter Act. So that bit of regulatory change will make enforcement for councils one hang of a lot easier. Little other things that Council are doing, we're trying to look at ways to phase polystyrene out of our own physical works. This is an artist's impression of Te Hono, which is the community centre which is being built in Avondale at the moment. And so one of the little things that we've done is they're going to be using screw piles. In fact, the earthworks are going on at the moment. They're using screw piles to avoid using polystyrene, or to reduce the amount of polystyrene that's being used in that particular design. Okay, that's Claude. You're up next, mate.